Hi, I'm Penny Sutterby, and this is my formative experience. I started my seminary career in August of 2015. I moved to the campus of Drew University Theological School in Madison, New Jersey. I was so excited about starting this new journey, and I had it in my mind that I was going to finish my MDiv degree in 2.5 years, not 3. I quit a very well paying job to start my seminary career. I had a lot of time on my hands, so I took 15 credits my first year. That's 5 classes in the fall, spring, and summer. I did great, and I was on top of the world. One night in October of 2016, I was walking out of my class to go to my dorm room, and I fell. I tore up my hands and my knees, and my colleagues ran over to help me up, and eventually campus security came over, bandaged me up, and took me to my dorm, which was way across the other side of campus. Now, a few days later, I started having awful pain in the right side of my abdomen. And it was so bad, I decided I better go to the emergency room. And the doctor told me I had to go see a specialist. And I had come to find out I had a polyp blocking the duct of my appendix. So I had to have surgery to remove the appendix and part of my colon. And after the surgery, I wasn't getting better. And then, sometime later on, I began to have postmenopausal bleeding. I went to the campus nurse, and she told me that I needed to go to my doctor. And I wasn't going to. I was totally against it. I had too much to do. And I finally broke down and I went. I drove 5 hours to Rochester, New York, went to the appointment, drove 5 hours back to campus. And a few days later, she called me and wanted me to come into her office. And I said, I just got back from New York, and I'm not driving 5 hours or 10 hours round trip just to see you in the office. You can tell me what's going on over the phone. She said, I'm sorry, but you have cancer. Now, I was scheduled to go on a cross-cultural trip in January of 2017, and that was to go to Israel. I spent many days traveling from New Jersey to Rochester, New York, and back to New Jersey to make sure that I was healthy enough to make this trip. And I was. And the only person that I told was my dean. So when we get to Israel, during the week, at some point, we ended up at the Mary Magdalene site. And my dean suggested that I tell my colleagues what was going on. So we all gathered around and I told them, and we all hugged and cried. And they said, wow, you have a completely different experience here than what the rest of us will. And later on that week, we went to the Western Wall, the Wailing Wall, and my dean and I walked up, and I placed my hand on the wall, and she placed her hand on my shoulder, and I cried and sobbed uncontrollably. And I asked God, why me? Why me? I ended up going into surgery the day after we got back from Israel. And after I healed a little bit, I had radiation, low dose chemo, and eventually high dose chemo. And during that time, I could not do anything for myself. I had to let go, and I had to let people. And I had to let go, and I had to let God. I couldn't do anything on my own. I couldn't eat. I couldn't read. I couldn't pray. Nothing. And so this is Terrible. I'm not doing this well.